Good morning. Can you hear my voice? Okay, we'll start the class. I will share the screen with you. So yesterday we were discussing the topic related to brakes, and there we have seen that different types of brakes are available, and the requirement of the brake is if you apply the brakes which are too hard, then in that case the wheels they lock up, and as a result the vehicle skid sideways. Now then the brakes are applied less hard, the wheels continue to rotate. That means in both the case it is not advisable to apply the brake very hard or less hard. So there has to be some golden mean between the application of the brake effort and the brake system. The brake must be applied to the point at which the wheels are almost ready to lock. That means it is on the verge of locking, but it will not get locked. So this was the brief background. So with this background now, we will start with the first type of brake, that is nothing but the drum brake, and I will draw the figure for the drum brake, how it looks. Okay. So today we are going to discuss drum brake. This you have studied, but here we need to fully take up the topic on the drum brake. So here we have got the small cam, and here is the brake shoe surface. So brake shoes are made like this. This is pivoted, at this particular point, and here we are going to have the friction lining. Then so I will draw the friction lining with some different color. So this is the friction lining. There is a spring which is connected in between. This shoe, and the outer portion of this is basically the drum, the drum is the outer portion is drum, the red color one which I have shown here is drum. So these brake shoes, they are pivoted at this particular point. So these are the anchor points. This is spring. This is called as the friction lining. What is this part? This is which part? The square one on the top is which part of the brake? What you call that as? Sir, ये part कौन सा ये? This is which part? No, that is not pivot. That is basically a cam. Okay. So when you operate the cam, so actuator part, that is correct. That is the cam. You can say that. When you apply the see what is going to happen if you rotate this particular cam, then these shoes, they will move apart in this particular direction because they are pivoted at this particular point. So the friction lining material that comes in contact with the drum, and that is how they absorb the energy, kinetic energy of the rotating drum, and the speed is reduced. Okay, so this is basically the background. The friction between the stationary shoes or pad and the rotating drum or disc produce the braking action. So it is the friction between the stationary shoes or pads and rotating drum, or you can say disc, produce braking action that slows or stop the wheels. So actually these mechanical these drum brakes, suppose now just suppose the friction lining material wears out. Now please try to understand. This is basically the thing that most of the time, see, most of the two-wheelers have this kind of brakes. Specifically, if you see the Luna vehicle, nowadays it is not in use, but if you see the Luna vehicle, you will find that such kind of brakes are used. Now, in case, remember that if this friction lining material is worn out and there is the gap, that means, for example, I am just trying to show you only one portion. This is the outer drum and you have got this cam. ये मैं एक ही पार्ट का आपको जस्ट बता रहा हूं, ठीक है, कि ये मान लो ये फ्रिक्शन लाइनिंग जो मटेरियल है, understand that this friction lining material somehow wears out. So in that case, what would you recommend? Suppose ये यहाँ पे there is a gap, that means ये जो दिख रहा है ना, ये gap है, so this is basically the gap due to wear. Now if you go to the mechanic shop, he is saying that sir कि आप गाड़ी का ब्रेक नहीं लग रहा है and there is a problem with the friction lining material, so what would you do? सर ये ब्रेक शू का कॉस्ट कम से कम 70 to 80 रुपीज आता है एक ब्रेक शू का, और यू हैव टू replace both the brake shoes because you cannot have the one new and one old, because if the wear is uneven, then you will find that on the inside of the rotating drum there is some uneven wear pattern which will be seen, or at some point the hub is getting more polished and at other point the hub is not getting polished at all. So such kind of situation may happen in case if you change only one brake shoe. So how do you address this particular problem? You don't want to change the brake shoes. How do you do that? What would you do? That is a question. सर कैसे करेंगे सर? Have you understood the question? Please reply in the chat box, yes, no. Change the length of the spring or anchor part. Sir, how you are going to change the length of the spring? How does it matter? Because if you change the length of the spring, then it is of no use, because you are going to, whether it is to be increased or it is to be decreased. Prajwal. Sir, if you increase it, then what is going to happen? It may lose contact with this particular cam, because then you are producing the, suppose this is the cam, I am drawing the exaggerated view. If you allowing the shoe to move further ahead, then the gap, you are shifting the gap over here. Yes or no, sir? So then the actuation of the brake will become difficult. See, instead of doing that, what generally the common roadside mechanic they do, if you go to showroom, they will ask you to change the brake shoes. Okay. Instead of that, what they do, they weld a piece of metal, that is, you can say the filler piece here and here. Okay, that means whatever layer it has worn out, still you can use some layer, and in this case also you can avoid the uniform wear, provided these pieces should be of uniform thickness. Otherwise, if we choose to fit two different pieces, then again it is going to have some problem. So please keep this thing in mind. Most of the time, the roadside mechanic, they come up with the solution so quickly, whereas the people in the service station, they will say that you just have to change the brake shoe. There is no other option. Okay, so please understand this. Whenever you go to the go with the complaint of that there is a problem with the brake shoe, please be careful. Now I will show you how this brake actually looks like in practice. So I am going to shift to the PowerPoint presentation. So see, sir, this is basically the construction, you got to have, this is the cam, the part 2 is the actuator, or this is the cam, then this is part 1, the pivot, and this is the spring, this is the actual construction. The blue color boxes, this is the brake shoe, and the outer portion is the friction material. The same kind of shoe is, the same kind of construction is shown here. This is basically the actuating cam, and these are the brake shoes. Then this is how you can do the assembly. This is the complete assembly of the brake shoe. Okay, this is the brake shoe with pad, then the brake drum shown transparent, then the shoe pivot. Here it is the other view of the brake drum with spring and cam, everything. In the next slide, it is showing you the brake assembly completely. This is the hand brake cable. This is the brake shoe with the lining. Then these are the tension springs, then retracting springs, then hand lever, hand brake lever, brake shoes. This is the other part of the brake shoe. There is a friction lining material on here. Then the backing plate on which you fit the brake shoe. Then the next, then this is the complete assembly of the drum brake. So complete assembly of the drum brake is shown here. Now next is the disc brake. We'll try to see what do you mean by disc brakes. So is this clear? Anybody is having any doubt as far as the drum brakes are concerned? Sir, here handbrake cable is shown. Why for you require this handbrake cable? The handbrake cable is basically the same brake shoes, they are used as a parking brakes as well. So that is why when you stop the vehicle and when you are parking the vehicle, at that time, before closing all the doors and parking the vehicle, you just have to pull the handbrake so that you can apply the brakes in the standstill condition of the vehicle. So now let us go to the next topic, that is basically the disc brake. Now just read this. The disc brake system consists of एक second. Okay, so disc brake system consists of brake rotor. That means you have to have the additional rotor instead of the hub, a brake caliper, and the brake pads. When the brake pedal is applied, pressurized hydraulic fluid squeezes the brake pad friction. Squeezes the brake pad friction material against the surface of the rotating brake disc. That means, have you seen the disc brakes? Sir, please reply. If you have seen, then I just wanted to check your general observation. Yes, okay. Sir, please let me know why have you seen the disc brake to be fitted on the rear wheel? On front wheels. What is the reason, sir? Only in expensive vehicle, okay? Like expensive means what? Sir, I am talking about the two-wheeler. In two-wheeler, you observe that the rear wheels, they are not fitted with the disc brake. Am I correct? But you are saying only in expensive vehicles. So what are those expensive vehicles? What are those models which you are talking about, sir? Saurabh. Okay. So what may be the reason why the disc brakes, they are fitted on the front and not on the rear? These are more effective than the drum brakes. Sir, you think about this, we will move ahead. So the result of this contact produces friction which enables the vehicle to slow down or stop. The disc brake is a lot like the brakes on the bicycle. Bicycle brakes have a caliper which squeezes the brake pads against the wheel. In the disc brake, the brake pads squeeze the rotor instead of wheel, and the force is transmitted hydraulically instead of through a cable. Friction between the pad and disc slow down the disc. See here, dust or dirt. No, that is not the reason, sir. There has to be some technical reason for that. So we'll discuss that. Don't worry. It says that in a disc brake, these lines they distinguish between the disc brake and drum brakes. In disc brake, the brake pads squeeze the rotor instead of wheel, and the force is transmitted. Please understand this. This is very important. The force is transmitted hydraulically instead through a cable. That means these disc brakes, they are hydraulically operated. They are not operated by the linkages. So that is the main issue as far as the disc brakes are concerned. Friction between the pads and the disc slows the disc down. Okay. So this is the basically principle. That means if you fit the rotating disc, then you can catch it by the side caliper. So this is the layout of the disc brake. So this portion is called as the caliper. Okay, this portion is called caliper. This is the rotating disc. Okay, and the side view of this brake is you have the wheel attached here. Now there is a disc which is attached to the wheel hub, and this is basically the disc. Okay, the same disc is shown here. This is the disc. Okay, and these are the calipers. When you force the fluid under pressure here, then this will move the brake shoes like this, or brake pad like this, and they will catch hold of the rotating disc. This is basically the rotating disc, and this is the power piston. And since see here, they apply the force which is perpendicular to the direction of the rotation. That means the caliper, they are holding the disc along the axis of the rotation, and that is how you can stop that. This is basically the portion which is shown here. This is the complete portion. Okay, so that portion in hardware is shown here. So the basic idea is a shoe area. That means this blue color shoe area is equals to 12 to 16% of the disc area. Clearance between the shoe and disc is of the order of 0.05 to 0.15 millimeter, which reduces the actuation time. That means the clearance is kept so tight that it should not, the moment you press the pedal, then the hydraulic fluid will push this piston ahead so that it can be in contact with the disc, and that is how the disc will stop immediately. Okay, so I will draw the two-dimensional sketch for that, so that अगर एग्जाम में आया आपको तो you should able to draw it. Okay, so and I have got one more question for you regarding the disc brake. Okay, so you have to draw the disc brake first. Let us try to draw the Here there's another shoe. To this you attach the bellow, you connect this with the power line. Attach to this thing. Now this is the complete shoe body. Okay, so अरे यार ये रेड कलर से हो गया, ठीक है जाने दो. So this is the I'm showing only half part. Okay. Here this is the complete body of the caliper. ये सर पूरी caliper की body है. Okay. Now what is going to happen? You are going to supply the hydraulic pressure from master cylinder. Hydraulic pressure from master cylinder. So this is the caliper. This is a connecting tube, and these are piston. This particular portion, these are brake pad. This is the disc. This rotates. Okay, so this is the actual schematic diagram of the disc brake. Please note that this shoe area is 12 to 16% of disc area. And now let us come to this particular disc. So if I have to show you the disc, then this is the disc, this is fitted on the hub. So if I have draw the side view of the disc, it is okay. So this is the disc, and on this particular disc you might have seen some of the holes are there. They are punched randomly. So these are basically the holes. So can anybody tell me what is going to be the purpose of these holes? Ventilation and heat dissipation. Okay, very good. Ventilation and heat dissipation. Okay. Avoid eddy currents. Why eddy currents will form, sir? So this holds for, you can say, heat ventilation. Okay, that I agree. But I do not agree to avoid eddy current. Provide space for thermal expansion. Okay. So then heat dissipation and all that will cover that, Saurabh. Okay. So what other thing which you can think about it? Provide space for thermal expansion is okay. What may be the other purpose? And that should be the main purpose rather than heat ventilation and other things. Because if you talk like that, then you will see that in the drum brakes there is no arrangement for the ventilation of the heat. Okay, and because of the heat, the brake there is a effect on the brake lining material which is called as the brake fading, FADDING. Okay, so reduce weight is not that big deal. You can make the plate thin, increase friction. No, sir, you are missing something. These are basically nothing but this is the first and the foremost function of the holes. The holes are provided. That is why I mentioned that these holes, they are randomly placed. Randomly, they are not placed randomly. Basically, it achieves the balancing of the disc. If the disc is not balanced, then as we have seen in tires, there can be a sideways motion because of the static and dynamic unbalanced weight, and due to that it may touch. If you see the clearance between the shoe and the brake, it is of the order of, so clearance is of the order of 0.5 0.05 to 0.15 millimeter. So to achieve or to maintain this kind of tolerance, you got to have that this should be, the plate should be balanced. This should be balanced. Otherwise what will happen, वो जब आप गाड़ी चलाएंगे तो वो एक तो शू घिस जाएगा या आपकी डिस्क है वो घिस जाएंगी. सो इफ दिस हैपेंस लाइक व्हाट आई हैव शोन हियर, अगर ये ऐसा हुआ तो इन दैट केस there will, the disc brake will lose its effectiveness. So have you understood, sir? तो सर थोड़ा सा आप क्या करते हो, आप एक ही डायरेक्शन में सोचते हो. सी vibration, you have studied theory of machines 2. In theory of machines 2 there is a topic on the balancing and we take it very lightly, but please note that the balancing is achieved in almost all the rotating components, whether it is used in machine tools or whether it is used in automobile or whether it is used in some other system. Please note that if there is no balancing of the component, the system cannot function. So balancing is very important aspect. Don't think from the point of view of 5 marks, 10 marks from the examination viewpoint, but please be careful that all these things, they are practically applied, and wherever you find the rotating part, you remember that we have studied balancing of the wheel because that is a rotating part. So balancing of wheel is balancing is a very important topic in our day-to-day life. If you lose the balance, then the system cannot function. So have you understood this, sir? Do you have any questions on this? Now can we shift to the layout of the hydraulic brakes? Yes sir, clear. Chalo. So now we will talk about the sir, hydraulic brake means you operate or actuate either drum brake or disc brake by means of fluid under pressure. Okay, that is basically the hydraulic brakes. So hydraulic brakes use a liquid under pressure. So these brakes use liquid under pressure to transfer force or motion, to transfer force or motion, or to increase an applied force, or to increase an applied force. Okay, please note that increase and applied force, this is achieved by using the principle of Pascal's law. Okay, so pressure on liquid is called hydraulic pressure. It is hydraulic pressure that forces brake shoes. Okay, so it is the hydraulic pressure that forces the brake shoes or pads into contact with rotating drum or disc to produce braking. To produce braking. Please note that here the two words are written. It is a drum or disc to produce the braking. Now, what is the hydraulic brake system consist of? See, the components of the hydraulic brake systems are the first one is the master cylinder. The second is disc or drum brake mechanism. That means either you can use the drum brake or you can use this kind of caliper. So whatever fluid here, whatever it is mentioned, hydraulic fluid from the master cylinder, so that is basically the hydraulic fluid which is pumped from the circuit, and when you press the brake pedal, the hydraulic fluid is pumped into it. So I will just shift to the next page to draw the layout of the hydraulic circuit. Is that okay? Shall I shift to new page? Sir, please respond yes or no, or anybody is having any difficulty. अगर कुछ नहीं है तो सर मैं आगे बढ़ता हूँ फिर, ठीक है? चलो, तो अभी लेआउट ऑफ हाइड्रोलिक ब्रेक. So layout of hydraulic brake system. So sir, ये layout है only for the understanding of how the hydraulic brakes they work. So you got to have the master cylinder over here. This master cylinder is having the piston. जहां सर अभी इसको दो पिस्टन है, ये दोनों पिस्टन जो है they are connected with the brake pedal. जहां आप ये एफर्ट लगाते हो, ये यहाँ पिवोटेड है। तो सर यहाँ से एक लाइन निकलती है जो आपके फ्रंट ब्रेक्स को कैटर करती है, फ्रंट ब्रेक शूज को कैटर करती है। ओके फाइन, ये मैं जस्ट मिटा देता हूँ, इस लाइन आई डोंट वांट। यहाँ सर अभी ये लाइन यहाँ कनेक्ट होती है, दिस विल गो टू, यहाँ पे बाइफर्केशन है, here it is getting connected to the system where you attach the brake pedal। यहाँ है सर ये आपका रोटेटिंग डिस्क, दूसरा ब्रेक शू है, फिर ये दोनों सिस्टम जो है सर यहाँ कनेक्टेड है, ठीक है। सिमिलर काइंड ऑफ सिस्टम इज हियर, ये है, जस्ट टू शो यू आई एम ड्राइंग दिस। सर ये भी सिस्टम पूरा कनेक्टेड है। So these are basically, you can say, the piston, and this is the disc, this is the front wheel brake system. On the similar lines, you ought to have the system over here. This is further divided into two parts, where you can have another, this is the different arrangement which you can visualize। सर मैं सिर्फ अभी एक्चुएटर बता रहा हूं, यहाँ मैंने ये कैलिपर वाला बोला, ये डिस्क एक्चुएटर है सर, ये ड्रम ब्रेक्स का एक्चुएटर है, तो मैं आपको वो समझा देता हूं। Okay, so these are the rear wheel cylinders used to actuate the brake pads, करेक्ट। तो सर ये दोनों है, ये है आपका ब्रेक पेडल, ये brake efforts by driver, this is the master cylinder। तो सर यहाँ क्या होने वाला है, दी वर्किंग इज वेरी वेरी सिंपल, प्लीज अंडरस्टैंड। ये यहाँ पे जैसे ही आप इसको प्रेस करेंगे तो फ्लूइड ये यहाँ जाएगा, ये यहाँ और यहाँ, then it will press fluid through this, fluid will go here, fluid will go here and here, and will actuate the brake pads like this। So this is one part of the circuit. The other part of circuit is the fluid will come here, fluid under pressure will come here, will go here, and will push these so that you can actuate actually, so that this will move apart. Please note that you may be having question कि सर एक बार हमने brake pedal press कर दिया तो fluid under pressure is going to actuate the brake pedal, but how it is going to come back to the original position. So all these mechanisms, so please note that the oil under pressure can retract back when the brake efforts are removed, because all these cylinders, they are fitted with the spring kind of arrangement. That means if you allow them to, for example, ये ऐसी अरेंजमेंट होती है सर यूजुअली, ये अगर ये पिस्टन है, ये उसका पिस्टन रॉड है. नाउ अगर आप यहां से अगर फ्लूइड, इसमें ये फ्लूइड अंडर प्रेशर है, फ्लूइड अंडर प्रेशर, अगर ये यहां आपने फ्लूइड इंडक्ट किया, द मोमेंट you induct the fluid over here, it is going to exert the pressure on the piston. तो सर ये क्या होगा, ये जो स्प्रिंग फिट किया हुआ है on the other side of the piston. Okay, so on the other side of piston, so there is a spring which is fitted here, and this spring, ये जो स्प्रिंग है सर, ये स्प्रिंग कॉम्प्रेस होगा जब तक के the time up to which you are going to press this brake pedal, ये जब तक कि आप ब्रेक पेडल को प्रेस करते रहेंगे, till that time the fluid under pressure will press this. The moment you release this, the spring will retract back the fluid, and there will be return line which is given to the cylinder, and the fluid will be retracted back. Okay, so that is basically the retracted spring, as it is mentioned here. Somebody has mentioned it, or Saurabh. So this retraction spring is fitted inside this cylinder. So this is the master cylinder, and please note that all these cylinders, they are fitted individually at each wheel, so that when the driver will apply the brake, then all the braking effort should be you can say uniform. So this is how the hydraulic cylinder it works. So anybody is having any question as far as the working of the hydraulic cylinder is concerned? Sir, if you have any questions, please do ask. Sir, which oil is used in hydraulic brakes? Is it need to be changed? Pradyuman, usually the multi-grade oil is used in the hydraulic brakes, and if at all there is some leakage, then it needs to be changed, or with some kilometers of running of the vehicle, it is better to change the brake fluid, because the hydraulic brake fluid, it is used frequently, because it's not that we are driving the vehicle and we are not applying the brakes. The brakes are applied so frequently, so the hydraulic fluid may undergo some changes with the usage. So it is better to be changed after certain kilometers. Usually if you say that the 10,000 kilometers or 15,000 kilometers, or whenever you feel that the brakes are not effective, then need to find out that how is there any leakage, because if there is any leakage in any of the cylinder, you will find that the dirt will get accumulated, and then there is a need to top up the hydraulic brake fluid. Okay, so does that answer your question? Okay. Any other question? Or for your information, I will show you the one you can say slide over here, which talks about this is the hydraulic fluid specification. So brake fluids must meet SAE and DOT, Department of Transportation specification for viscosity, lubrication, non-corrosive behavior, then low freezing point, then water coolant. So does not solidify in cold weather. So always use new and correct type of hydraulic, correct type of fluid recommended for braking system. Brake fluid is hygroscopic. Please understand that, which means that over a period of time it absorbs water, which lowers its boiling point. Should the fluid boil, air around form in the hydraulic system resulting in brake failure. अगर कैविटेशन हुआ तो फ्लूइड ये बॉइल करेगा, बॉइल किया तो ब्रेक फेलियर होगा. So high boiling point remains liquid at high temperature. So this is the fluid which is used in hydraulic brake system. So this is the same circuit. I will explain you. This is the reservoir. In case of any leakage, the brake system should not fail. So that is why there are provisions for making it fail safe for the operation. So with this, I think we will stop here. If you have any questions, please do ask. सर आपको कोई क्वेश्चन है क्या, पूछिएगा सर. Why this in front? So सर प्रज्वल आप थोड़ा सा ये पेशेंस रखो, मैं इसका आंसर दूंगा, because there has to be some weight transfer phenomena which happens. So somehow say when you are driving the vehicle, I am talking about two-wheeler, not the four-wheeler. Okay, whenever you are driving a two-wheeler, then when you apply the brakes, suppose you suddenly apply the brakes, the weight of the co-passenger and driver get transferred to the front wheel. So as a result, the front wheel has to absorb more amount of energy in less amount of time. So in order to achieve that, the disc brakes are recommended to fit on the front wheel rather than the rear. So this is the answer to your question, Prajwal. Okay, how much the amount of weight it is getting transferred and all that we will come to know when we are going to design the spring for the suspension system. Does that answer your question, Prajwal? It is due to weight transfer phenomena. Okay. So any other questions, if you have, please do ask. So if there are no questions, then you may leave the meeting.